Well, hello, everybody. This is Thor, and today we're going to be talking about something really important. And this is how people see you in the world. So when we look at your Vedic astrology chart, it's a roadmap of your karma. All the planets, all the houses, they all represent some portion of your karma that's going to be experienced throughout your life. But even with your ascendant might show your socioeconomic situation and how you view yourself, but it's not necessarily how people outside of yourself view you. And basically what people are seeing when they see you, they're seeing an illusion. So it's seen through a filter of illusion, which we call Maya. Maya is the illusion, the idea that we're living in illusion, that a lot of this is not real, that what we think of as reality, as the five sense pleasures or the five sense reality, is not necessarily the reality of things, just like we only see a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Well, there's this broader and this greater reality. So when somebody's seeing you, they're seeing a representation of you, they're seeing a sort of projection of you, but it's not necessarily who you are or what you're experiencing. So we're going to be talking about that today. And we're going to be using an example chart. We're going to be taking a look at Robin Williams' chart. A lot of you guys may know Robin Williams from movies, especially movies in the 90s, like Mrs. Doubtfire and Dead Poets Society. That was another movie Robin Williams is in. And then he took his life in 2014 and it was very tragic. So that's where we're going to look at today, because there was a big difference between how society saw Robin Williams and their expectations of him versus the inner reality of what was happening. So that's what we're going to take a look at. And there's a specific house in everyone's chart where you can look at to find out what is it that people are seeing, what is your projection. And that's called the Aruda Lagna. So we're going to be talking about that today. I have a little presentation that I put together, so I hope all of you guys enjoy it. If you guys are new to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe, of course. My goal is 10,000 subscribers, and we've been picking up quite a few subscribers, so I'm very excited about that. I think we're at almost 1330 now. So thank you everybody for your support, and I feel happy when I see you guys subscribing. Guys, it brings me a lot of joy. And if you guys are interested in your own personal reading, where we can analyze your karma, look at your chart, and also your Aruda Lagna, if that's something you're interested in, check out the details down below. And it's 40% off all of the readings that are purchased through my website if you use codename Thor at checkout. All right, guys, one thing I have to let you know is this is based on, and hold on a moment, shutting my window here. This is based on Vedic astrology, which is the sidereal zodiac. It's not the Western tropical zodiac. So many people, when they're looking at horoscopes, when they look at the month and day, that's usually Western tropical astrology. So I practice Vedic astrology, which is the astrology developed in ancient India. And your ascendant sign and your moon sign may be different using this method. So I want you to be aware of that. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is we are going to discuss this idea of Maya. A lot of the enlightened beings and enlightened masters like the Buddha have taught us about this thing, or this concept of Maya, and it's that we're living in an illusion. We're not seeing the reality of how this world, what we call a world, is. We're not seeing the reality that everything is essentially a part of ourselves. Okay, so there really is, on an absolute level, there is really no such thing as an other. Okay, everything is part of the one consciousness on the absolute level. Okay, but while we're here, we're looking at appearances. Things appear to be separate. That's what Maya is. So when you see another person crossing the street, there's an appearance of this other person that has their own thoughts, emotions, their own life, okay? And also when you look at that person, there's a projection. So you come up with some sort of judgment about that person. Maybe they're dressed in a nice business suit and you think this person must be a successful business person. Or maybe you walk down the street and you see somebody that, they're wearing unclean clothes and they look like they might be homeless. That's another judgment we make about somebody. So all of us have a projection of what we're psychically advertising ourselves to be. The thing is you might not be living your life in alignment with that psychic advertisement that you're sending out to people. It's important to know about your Aruda Lagna because it's important for your success. You see, if you're trying to project something you're not, it's not going to be congruent. There's going to be problems there. So I give an example later on in the slideshow here of, let's imagine people look at you and they see somebody who's artistic, maybe somebody who could be a great actor or poet or celebrity, okay? But you're just an office manager, okay? You're just working at some corporate job being an office manager. Well, they might not respect you that much because you're not living in accordance with what your Aruda Lagna is psychically advertising people. So people actually might even have animosity towards you, that this is not something you should be doing. You should be being an artist. This is all done on a very subconscious level. Okay, so this is seen through a lot of people's third eye. When you meet somebody new in your life, there's a first impression. This is what the first impression is. It's a psychic glance that you get at people through your third eye. So it's very subconscious. So that's what we're talking about today. Let's share the presentation again. So when we're talking about Maya, I just described it. The reality we live in is known as Maya. It is a world of illusion. Our programming from birth reinforces the illusion of separateness and the negative ego. Most do not perceive the world to be a unified field. This is a sense of other and an objective five-sense material reality. Most of what we perceive from other people is a projection. It's not the actual reality of the person, okay? And you guys probably noticed that quite a bit. People make judgments about you and it's not the reality of yourself. People make judgments about maybe what you believe, what your politics are, how much money you make, and it's not even the truth. It's just what you're psychically advertising. So let's take a look at the slideshow again. Now, I put a few examples in the slides. So one example I'm using, guys, is if you're a successful actor and you have big smiles, lots of money, lots of dates, men or women, and you're perceived to be very successful to the outside world. But the truth is that you might be somebody that's very lonely. You're disconnected, you're depressed. You actually feel like a failure. Maybe you didn't get the award that you wanted. So you actually feel like a total failure, even though the outside world is viewing you as a total success. This is an example of the Aruda Lagna, okay? And also the opposite can be true, guys. Somebody may perceive themselves to be a popular person and well-liked, but they might actually be very disliked. So a lot of narcissistic people, they might think that they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they might think people think they're amazing, great people, and in reality, people perceive them to be very cruel people, or very disliked people, a person that they don't want to be around. Okay, so this is the projection versus the actual truth. It's super interesting to study. So let's take a look at, this is the first impression. So when we're talking about the Aruda Lagna, this is the first impression. This is what people expect you to act like. Okay, so if you look like a very spiritual person, they're going to expect you to act spiritual. They're not going to expect you to be going to the club. So if they see you, as a spiritual person, they see at the club, they might actually not like that. So first impression, this comes from your aura, by the way. The aura provides the first impression of someone. This is how the general public views a person without knowing them. Your aura is like an advertisement of who you are. You guys can't really control your aura, by the way. It's something you're born with. When we're talking about this, part of your karma, you're born with this. In astrology, this is called the Aruda Lagna. This is not the ascendant sign. This is how people perceive you. So the ascendant is different. Remember that. The ascendant is a social material indicator within the chart. So people might not see you, say your ascendant is Taurus. People might not see you as a Taurus. You know, maybe your Aruda Lagna is Cancer. People see you as a Cancer, but even though your ascendant is Taurus. So be aware of that. This is important to know because of success purposes. So I want y'all to be aware of. Oftentimes it is good to line up your personal behavior to match up with your Aruda Lagna if you want success. For example, remember I talked about this before. If your Aruda Lagna is the 5th house of Leo, people may see you as a celebrity figure, charismatic, and artist. However, and I'm reading this, if you are working as an office manager, it doesn't match how people see you. Very little success and may even experience animosity from others. So instead of fighting it, I had a client, say, well, I don't want to be perceived as this. It's not something to fight against or change. If anything, knowing your Aruda Lagna, it's good to work with this, because the more you work with it, the more you can actually make a positive impression on people. So you can actually, any house can be positive, by the way. Any house or sign can be positive. There's nothing bad about your Aruda Lagna. So let's go to the next sign. We're going to take a look at, and that's actually it. I thought that was it. I thought that was we had another slide there. So let's look at Robin Williams' chart. And a lot of you guys remember, now I'm not old enough to know this, but I'm not old enough to remember this, but the Mork and Mindy show, I believe that was in the 70s. And I think that was when Robin Williams got really big and he was a comedian. So he was known as somebody who had a lot of energy. He was very funny. He seemed so happy to the world. If anyone ever watched his movies, he was always really funny. I remember as a child growing up in the 90s, watching Mrs. Doubtfire over and over and over, thinking it was absolutely hilarious. Let's take a look at Robin Williams' chart. Okay, so the first thing we're going to notice when we look at Robin Williams' chart is you're going to notice the ascendant here is Libra. But this is not the Aruda Lagna. This is just more social material, okay? So this is the ascendant. He's ruled by the planet Venus here, okay? Obviously, he did very well. Venus is in the 11th house. This can indicate a lot of fame, fortune, and so forth. And he had a lot of past life influence with that. But how did people actually see Robin Williams? Not necessarily the ascendant. The ascendant is one little aspect on a social material level. How people saw Robin Williams, and I want you all to be aware of this, is his Aruda Lagna is actually the 9th house of Gemini. So be aware of that. Let's show this. We're going to explain what this means, and I'm also going to show you how to calculate this sign, because you're going to be wondering, how do I calculate my Aruda Lagna? It's not usually generated in a chart. So what does 9th house represent? Well, if you notice, 9th house can represent things like celebrity. So when anybody has a lot of fame, it can be 9th house. 9th house does represent father figures, gurus, and a lot of fame. Okay, almost magical level of fame. So it might even seem like he got to where he was. It was almost a magical ascent. Now, I was thinking about this idea of Robin Williams being viewed as a father figure, and just think about the movies he made, and this actually makes perfect sense. In the movie Mrs. Doubtfire, wasn't he perceived in the movie? He was a father, and he was trying to figure out a way to visit his children, right? Because he had a divorce. Well, again, there's that father aspect. If you watch the movie Dead Poets Society, what was he? He was a father figure to these students who were at this university. He was a professor. 9th house also represents professors. And I'm not even naming all of the roles that Robin Williams was in. But generally, if you think about it, he was like a family figure. Like this is somebody that you sit down and you watch a family movie with, because he has this nice, there's usually a good message with his movies, and they're usually very, very positive. So it has that ninth house vibe to it. Also think of this. He's perceived as the Gemini. Geminis tend to be very talkative, witty people. And he was a comedian. So he knew how to come up with one-liners very quick. That's something a Gemini would do, not necessarily a Libra. So when you're thinking of somebody who's very witty, very quick at coming up with one-liners, comebacks, that's usually a Gemini. So that's what people are seeing. People are seeing him more as a Gemini, even though he's a Libra ascendant. Let's go back to it. And then you'll also notice in his Aruda Lagna, there's Mars there. And what was one thing we noticed about Robin Williams? Well, wasn't he super energetic when he got up on stage for one of his comedy sessions, or when he was telling jokes in a movie? Wasn't he always seen as this very outgoing, energetic person? Well, that's Mars. Okay. And then Mars also rules the 7th house and the 2nd house. So people see him as very successful. Okay. 2nd house is like somebody who has a lot of money. Someone's very successful. They're seeing him as the 9th house of Gemini with Mars in it. Very positive figure. But let's think about, what was the actual reality though? Even though this looks like total success, total happiness, 9th house is happiness, it's Dharma. People were very surprised when Robin Williams ended up taking his life. And the reality is, if we look at the reality of Robin Williams, what's going on with his karma and how he feels with himself, let's look at this. Look at the moon in his chart. His moon is with Rahu. That's a very difficult placement right there. We can see a lot of people that face, especially during moon periods or Rahu periods, there's going to be periods of either there could be depression, anxiety, all types of things with moon being with Rahu. So there can cause all types of not feeling well, not feeling, even though he had all this success, there's this feeling of despair, because Rahu being with moon, Rahu's a corruptive influence. Okay. And then if we look at the ruling planet of his chart, which is Venus, it's with Ketu. Notice, and Ketu, remember, Ketu has a scattering effect. It has a dissociative effect. A lot of times when people are in Ketu Mahadasha or Ketu Bhukti, there can be periods of depression or things along those lines. And when we look at the Bhukti and the Mahadasha that Robin Williams was in when he unfortunately took his life, in 2014, he was in Ketu Mahadasha. So even though the world is seeing this, he was more experiencing this. So this is what he was experiencing, and this is what people were seeing. So there were two different things. The inner reality was not the same as the outer reality. When people see somebody really famous that takes their life, they're wondering how in the world would this person decide to do that? They're famous. They have everything they want. They have success. They have money. They could probably date a lot of people, but our karma is you could have a lot of success and money, but it's still that you might not be happy. So now there's free will there, not necessarily that he had to do that, but it's important to know when we're looking at a chart, there's a lot of different projections happening. There's projection machinery that's happening. So it's important to really look at your chart and look how the world sees you. Now I'm going to show you how to calculate your Aruda Lagna. Let's go back. If you guys want to calculate your own Aruda Lagna, what you're going to do is you're going to look at your first house. Okay, so in Robin Williams' chart, it's going to be the first house of Libra. Okay, I'm gonna take this slow so you guys can really understand this. And you're going to look at what planet rules that sign. So if we're looking at Libra, it's going to be the planet Venus. Okay, now we're going to count how many houses till we get to Venus, right? Well, that's going to be 11 houses. But we got to count it like this. Remember, you count the house that you're in. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so you notice Venus is 11th house, 11 houses from the ascendant sign. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to stop there, and now we're going to count 11 houses from Venus. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's the Aruda Lagna. This is the Aruda. That's how you calculate it. So you look from your Lagna and you count the ruling houses to the ruling planet. Then you go to your ruling planet, count that many houses to your Aruda Lagna. That's how you're going to determine it. Now, there's special cases. If you have a ruling planet that is in the first house or a ruling planet that's in the 7th house, you're going to want to add 10 to it. That's the only exception. Okay, so for example, we're using a hypothetical example, if Robin Williams would have had Venus in the first house, well, it's going to basically cancel itself out for determining the Aruda Lagna, right? Because it's in its own first house. You're going to just add 10. So this would be the Aruda Lagna. If he had Venus in the first house, it would be the 10th house of Cancer. But that's not the case, okay? I don't want to get you guys confused. That's only if you have your ruling planet in the first house or the 7th house, okay? Otherwise, you calculate it in that first way that I showed you. You can get so much information out of this, because you might even be wondering, like, why have I tried all these different things and I just never found success? And you might not be aware that that's how people, through the projection machinery of your aura, they don't see you that way. Maybe you're trying to become a boss at your work, but people don't see you as a leader. Or maybe you're having a lot of problems in being a manager somewhere, but people see you as you should be an educator. Okay, so you kind of want to work with what your Aruda Lagna is. You don't want to fight against it. Try to find a way to work with it. Okay, so it's very important to realize that. I'm going to go to the chat. We're going to see if there's any questions here. All right, I'm taking a look. So guys, give me a minute. Seekers here from Sydney, Australia. So happy to see you. We have Buy or Buy Not, Ultra Spiritual Chick. Chris is here. Awesome. My relation place. Thank you for this training. I consider it a training. Absolutely. And Thor's, okay, there is no tip. I don't have the tip button just yet. Because I think I have to have a higher, I forget, there's a minimum qualification for the tip button. But thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys really take this presentation and really use it and apply it for your astrology. Because this, you know, they don't teach this typically in just a traditional Vedic astrology class. Most of the time, you're just learning about your ascendant, and you're learning about your moon sign. But the Aruda Lagna was something that I had to really do a lot of studying, and I had to dig, and I found this thing. And it really goes along with an astrology called Gemini. So it's a really important factor to throw into your chart. And sometimes when you have your birth chart, you can even mark that in your chart. Just mark that that's your Aruda Lagna, and that's how people see you. Because then remember, like I said in some other videos, this is like a puzzle of really, it's your karma, and then how does the world see you in this karma? You may find that the world sees you totally different than what your karma is. So that's the interesting thing about this when you study your chart. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys being here, and many blessings. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And also, if you guys are looking for a reading, that information is down below as well. So thank you guys and take care. And I'll see you guys in the next one.